Brothers and sisters, welcome back to the MatchNet podcast. This is the podcast that is the only podcast that is just for you if you are a single person that would love to be matched and blessed someday, and you are trying to navigate these times of matching and blessing in your life as a single person. You're going to dig this episode because we have Cathy with us, and we're going to be talking about something really, really special and really relevant to you guys. You guys ready? You ready? You ready?
Yep.
You ready, Cathy? All right. So yeah, if you guys like this episode, share it with someone on your team, because this is the only way that we share about this podcast, because we don't do advertising and we don't follow algorithms and trends. We just talk about what's really important, and we rely on people's word of mouth to spread this podcast. So share it with your team, your parents, your whoever. Okay, Cathy, my sister, I am going to give you the floor to talk about what is it that you felt called to talk to us about.
Mm-hmm.
That cool?
Sure. All right.
Let's go.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, thanks, Benji. When you asked me what to talk about, obviously there's always several things I want to talk about, but I thought this topic was relevant because just of my experience with obviously helping candidates, particularly sisters, in the matching process. So one thing that kept coming up was the topic of attraction. And this kept coming up because several sisters that I'm guiding has gone through conversations. And after maybe a few months of going through these conversations, they always struggle with, okay, well, now our initial introduction phase is over, and now we're about to start our 7-month phase, but I really don't feel attracted to him. And it's always a dilemma for several of my candidates that are seeking partners or spouses. And I find myself, there's two ways I could respond to this. And my immediate initial response is, so what? You don't really, just keep going. Attraction can grow, attraction can build. However, there's also another way to look at it. And biologically, it sometimes it is very difficult, no matter how great the person is. They check all the boxes in terms of spiritual life, goals for the future. You guys align in many ways, but there really just isn't that connection. So maybe sisters struggle with this more. I'm not sure. Maybe this is a female thing. So maybe later you can chime in, Benji. I don't know if brothers experience this to this degree. But I did decide to kind of talk about it today because I think it is important. And I think a lot of people, get confused by this. Should I keep going if I'm not attracted to this person? When I have other people that I want to reach out to that I might have a connection with better, so these are some things that a lot of people go through.
Yeah. So why do you think that this is important to people? I think we should start there at a like fundamental level.
So I think it's super important because a lot of people are ending relationships prematurely. And, 2 months, 3 months, yes, I believe you can understand a person pretty well in 2 or 3 months. You don't really need a year or two to understand who a person is or if they're marriage material. I really think you can get a good read on someone in a short amount of time. Now, when it comes to valuing the matching process and choosing a spouse. And I feel like a lot of people get stuck on, I just feel something with this person. And I think that in many ways it can be justified, but also the other end is, there's more important things. Like, is attraction super important to have? And should you end or continue a relationship, whether it's there or not, or if you have it? Or is it something that I can hope to grow? Is it something this person is a great person, I can see a future with them, but I just feel like I'm just not attracted to this person. Is my blessed life going to be difficult? Will it be filled with resentment if I'm not attracted to this person, but they're a good brother, they're a good sister, and I know they'll make a good spouse. So all these questions kind of swirling in this matching process.
Mm. And do you feel
So,
when you talk with sisters in particular about this, do you feel like their kind of desire for attraction to be there? Do you feel like that's based in what do you feel like that's based in that desire for attraction?
I was having a conversation with my spouse, my husband,
Mhm.
about this before I started talking about it. And I found it interesting because I think men and women find, define attraction differently. I don't know. He was kind of turned off by the word attraction because
Mhm.
my husband, when you say attraction, he immediately thinks it's all physical.
Mhm.
It's sexually driven. It's what you feel when you see someone based on their physical attributes.
Yeah.
So he said you need to be able to separate the word attraction versus like respecting someone's faith or mind or how they think, how they speak. So I asked him like, well, when we first met, did you find me attractive? He's like, well, when I think about your mind, he's like, I was like waiting to catch
No.
what he was gonna say. And he's like, well, when I think about your mind, I find like I wouldn't use attraction, I would use inspiring.
I'm
So
attracted
like,
to your
okay,
soul, Kathy. Oh my gosh.
man, he's a good sport.
Yeah, you can trust him. He's a trustworthy guy for sure.
Yes. So what I was getting at is I find many men, if they think similarly, they attribute the word attraction to just the physical.
Mm.
But when my candidate comes to me and she says, I just don't find him attractive, immediately I don't think it's just the physical aspect alone. I start to think, is it because of the level of maturity, whether emotionally or spiritually is lacking? Is there something deeper than just the physical that they're not clicking with? So when my candidates tell me that, immediately I never think physical attraction. I always think something beyond the physical. So, for men being more visually stimulated creatures, I think when they think attraction, they think it's all the physical. I'm just not attracted to this woman. She's not my ideal. Like, she doesn't look this way. She doesn't act this way, whatever. But for women, I think they kind of, they don't, they don't separate the physical and more or less superficial stuff from what's really internal. I think they see attraction as a whole package,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
I think I would define attraction, the desire to have sex with someone and have
Sorry, what?
fulfillment. The desire to make babies with someone,
Yes,
and
as a man,
which is a
sure.
no, no. I will say this for females too. All right, I will speak for females because I know one. The desire to be with, let's say, to be with someone, which is a feeling that comes from different elements of someone. And it could be, physical elements, it could be internal character elements. Regardless of where the elements are, it is a desire to be with someone. And so I think that's just a helpful overarching frame because some women are driven by physical things, right? And some women aren't, and some men are driven by physical, and some men aren't, are driven to character, you know?
Hmm.
And so I think yeah, I don't agree that attraction has the best rap because it is, kind of in the realm of crushes and external vanity. Um, like infatuation, attraction, maybe I don't know, is there a better word than attraction? Interest, to be
Yeah,
interested.
this is what we were talking about
Okay,
the other day. How to be.
yeah.
So I went and went to ChatGPT, went to two books that I have read years ago, and kind of re-summarized some things regarding attraction in a way to understand it better. So what you and I are both really saying is attraction has, you said components, I said layers,
Mhm.
and there's several of them. And the first one being physical attraction. But what I think a lot of people don't realize is physical attraction doesn't automatically entail sexual attraction. Because you can be attracted, for me, when I'm looking for friendship in another female, another sister, sometimes certain qualities about that sister I'm attracted to. How they look, how they present themselves, how they carry themselves. It doesn't mean it's a sexually driven attraction. It just means I really genuinely click with this person because it's my interest based on their appearance, their body language, their overall like vibe, right, that they give. So this can obviously grow over time. And then another part of attraction is the emotional attraction. It's like, I love who that person is. It's like connecting with someone's personality, their values, how warm they are, their humor, their stability, kindness. And then a big one for all of us, many of us, sisters especially, is intellectual attraction. It's like being pulled to that person's mind, how they think, how they see the world, whether conversations with them are easy, right? Like we've had conversations with some people that are really an effort, and
Draining.
it's hard. And then there's the romantic attraction that makes you feel like you want to take things from just friendship to the next level, which is companionship. And then there's the sexual attraction, right? The desire for physical intimacy. So lots of layers to attraction. And so I think that's the component that women, when we say we're not attracted to this person, it's maybe they're missing one or two of these
Yeah.
categories or components in their potential spouse. It's not just the sexual attraction or the physical attraction, but maybe they're falling short on the intellectual or the emotional side. What do you think, Benji?
Yeah, I believe regardless of male or female, attraction is an indicator. It's not the number one. Like if we're tracking what is the most important thing in a relationship, I would say from like a maybe modern cultural perspective, people would say attraction.
Mm,
We're not talking about modern culture and dating. We're talking about eternal blessing. Like it's a
mm-hmm,
very different context, first of all. And so if it's not attraction, it has to be something else. And I think that we're often like I'll put it like this simply for you guys. If you were 100% certain that God is working in a matching process in a relationship, let's just think like in these terms. If you're 100% certain that spirit world, your ancestors, where internally everything is good, spiritually everything's aligned, would you care if you were attracted to them? Would you care where they're from? Would you care what language they spoke if you were really feeling like this feels right? Does that make sense?
mm-hmm,
And so attraction is an indicator, but if we are fooled to think that that's the main thing that's driving a relationship, then we're missing all of the important elements of internal character, of spirituality, right? And I don't say internal like, like character or like in some sense, somebody's personality and their intellect, that is actually an external thing, in my view. It is. Because the definition of external is something that can change, something that can fizzle within a few years. And attraction, as we know, ask anybody that's ever had a crush, by the way, attraction comes and goes, which by definition means that you can create attraction from nothing. And I'll make this a little personal, right? And I've said this before. Uh, my wife has never, ever, ever found me attractive, like ever. And and I even ask her this sometimes, and she's like, "No, not at all," right? But there's a part of our relationship that she does value, which is more of my ability to just keep showing up and keep growing. And I'm
mm-hmm,
always there for the family. I'm always showing up for her and for the kids, despite, and anything like fighting, external things, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm always there. And that's what she really values in me. She wouldn't call it attraction though, but I would say that it's like look at older couples, for example, that are so lovey-dovey. I think of like Marjorie and Richard Busing, Aunt Marjorie, Uncle Richard. They're so, I mean, dynamically attracted to each other. It's palpable. And they've done that over decades of work together
mm-hmm,
and developing and stoking this fire in the relationship. And on the contrast, like a fleeting crush is something that comes and goes. And most people have experienced that where we just felt like this is the person and no one else matters. and then you like leave the workshop or leave the program, and then you don't think about them anymore. And you're like, man, they were like number one, and now I just like, you know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
it comes and goes. So my whole point is that attraction is an indicator. I think it should be paid attention to because that kind of honors your growth and who you are. It honors something about you. It doesn't mean it's right because many times the attraction could be based in cultural nuance and inculcation. Like it could be, well, I'll speak for men. A lot of men I talk to, their desire for attraction is based on what they've seen on Instagram and through porn, to be real. And
Hmm.
so it's not anything near what an actual real attraction should look like. It is based in something that is completely superficial, completely exaggerated, completely just otherworldly, and not of anything healthy or godly in any sense. So for people like that, I would say, yeah, your desire for attraction is not healthy and based in anything, and you need to be aware of it, understand what it's telling you about you, don't ignore it, and decide what you want to do with that. And I think that's like that's healthy. That's a healthy view of attraction and crushes is like, what is this telling me about me? And not just
Hmm.
assuming this is God, like this absolutely has to be this way. I have to feel attracted or I have to feel no attraction. That's another thing, right? People often feel guilty if they feel attracted to their matching partner or their spouse. Like, I shouldn't feel this way. Why do I feel attracted? It's like, what is it telling you about you? It's not the number one thing that you should be paying attention to. Actually, it's important, but it's not like everything, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so of course there's obviously many components like we've discussed, and that I strongly believe that attraction has its place in a relationship, but I don't think it should lead your decisions and your journey in your matching and blessing. And but to that degree, what when you are putting yourself out there, because I really do feel that men and women, this generation has a lot of work to be honestly even capable or desirable to be high value men and women. I talk a lot with some other moms, my friends, when we were in the matching stage before we were, married and blessed. And we were all saying, yeah, when we were approached, you would really treat that initial approach with importance. Like you wouldn't just kind of sweep it under the rug if they didn't look how you wanted them to look or their profile wasn't up to what your standards were. You would go all in. You would, if I were to be approached as a candidate, and I would understand that it took a lot of guts for this brother to ask to involve his parents and my parents. And you wouldn't just, be like, okay, well, let me get back to you in like 10 days. Let me do like a 30-day condition, like you don't do that. It just feels so superficial now. I feel like nowadays, a lot of my candidates go through so many profiles, and I would suggest a really good brother that I thought, wow, this guy would make such a good husband. He would make such a good leader for a family. And then they would just be like,
Yeah.
yeah, I just don't resonate with something he said. I was like,
Yeah.
really?
I got
So
you.
it's almost like we're treating our matching process, unfortunately, like a Tinder swipe, like it's literally like an online
Oh,
dating. You see a
gross. Yes.
profile, okay. It's
Yes.
just like it's almost being devalued.
Yeah.
But to that extent, I do feel both men and women, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to present ourselves better to each other, and as a godly, God-centered, soon to be ideal man, wife or husband, you you will attract those that you're most like, and that means you work on yourself, like you said. If you're feeling all these things and it's lacking in something, and you're like, okay, well, I'm not attracted to that, so I'm gonna call it quits. What is that telling you? So I think we do need to take a look into what characteristics do God-centered individuals look for in a spouse that is above attraction on the superficial level? So if as a godly woman wanting an ideal God-centered family, um, we value things that are not superficial, but ones that support a strong, peaceful, God-centered marriage, right? That is what is attractive to a future spouse, not just their looks or their athleticism or their personality, but the values that show up that really supports a long-term, stable, God-centered marriage. So I think first and foremost, as a woman, that you should be really valuing over the physical is what is that brother's personal relationship with God like? You know, not just them going to church or just showing up to church, but their own personal journey of prayer, of growth, of humility. You know, does he pray on his own? Does he show conviction, not just convenience, you know, not just when it's convenient? Does he take responsibility for his spiritual life? Because faith will, that affects your future choices. So, for me, that kind of trumps the physical portion of attraction. That would be the number one thing that would support a healthy marriage. So, secondly, I was thinking about this because my husband and I we were speaking at what's that called now? A Glimpse of a Blessed Life in Chicago in October. And so my husband was talking about you need to take leadership, you know, and in the Bible, women are meant to submit to their husbands, right? Feminists don't like that word, but personally, I happily submit to his leadership because I see that his leadership is always done out of love and it's never out of control. And one of the things that one of the BCs in the audience asked my husband was, what is the fine line between leadership so where it's not being controlling to the woman and I think leadership through love and not control is really something that women value in a potential spouse. And this is something that I think your wife said about you, Benji, that she finds attractive to you because you're consistent. You know, you are steady, you're stable, you show up and you're responsible. So and the leadership when it's done through through love, it shows up as, you know, patience, it's humility, it's being able to lead but also learn. Because that creates safety. That creates safety in a marriage and especially in a woman's heart. Anyway, I have a lot of different thoughts surrounding this and other components. Maybe I can
For sure.
have you chime in on what your thoughts are so far.
Yeah, well, look, I think you want to do a part two, right? I think we should do a part two on attraction.
Yeah,
And
I
so,
totally could do a part two. There's a lot to talk about.
yeah, this is important for people because it hits on pretty much all the major dilemmas for people. Even though it's a specific point in the matching process, it hits on a lot of points that people struggle with. I want to bring up one, but I
Right.
also want to let people know that we'll do a part two if you guys reach out to Kathy or I and tell us you want a part two. All right. If we hear enough people, actually, let's do this. If we hear, let's say, if hmm, let's do it 10. If 10 of you guys reach out to us and say that you want to do part two, we'll do part two. Deal? Deal. All
Deal.
right. So the aspect of this that I'm seeing is, you were mentioning, yeah, people, sisters, you were talking about that have these deal breakers. They're deep deal breakers. That's what they are, which I freaking hate. I hate that word. I hate it so much. It's such a petty out.
Yeah.
It's such an cop out for life.
Mm.
Oh, my deal breaker. And I'm not making fun of women. Men have this too.
Yeah.
Men have this too, brothers. It's my deal breaker. Well, she's like that. If you have a deal breaker, you are by definition saying you know better than God in spirit world.
Mm.
Think about it like that. But it's my deal breaker. Okay. Is that deal breaker an absolute, like, do you feel like spiritually it's aligned? Like, do you feel spiritually it's aligned, or is it your preference? Because the purpose of the blessing is not happiness and preference, it's to grow, guys. Anyone that's married will say this, that if they had their choice, you know, they would have chosen something very different. if let's say if they had their preference, right? 100% my preference, I think all of us that are blessed happily would choose someone very different. I definitely,
Mm,
I would choose someone that strokes my ego all the time, that tells how amazing I am and says, I love you. And when I say I love you, she says, I love you back. And she like all this stuff. Basically an American woman. That's what like Western. Like that's the typical Western woman, right? Is that you say I love you, they say I love you back. They like flowers, they like holding hands. At least it's the romanticized version, right? I know not all
mm,
Western women are like that, but there is a clear romanticized version of what a woman is because of film and TV shows that all women are like this. And that's kind of like what I believed. And she finds me attractive and all this stuff. But if I had my way, I would have been a total just jerk, like just the worst. I would have been everything that is just a giant inflated ego all the time walking around. And I probably wouldn't even be in a relationship right now. Because I'm 33 years old. And as a 33-year-old, I would have been like, you know what? She needs to be this and this and this and this and this and all this stuff. But thankfully, I had faith. And that's really the bottom line for me. I think if people have deal breakers, they fundamentally lack faith. And they could be small
mm,
deal breakers. But if you are have any sense of like, well, he or she needs to be like this, it lacks faith because maybe you don't know. Maybe your preference is not what the spirit world is guiding, your ancestors, God is guiding your heart to. You don't know. And so I really think it comes down to like what faith is. Do you
mm,
have the ability to just say yes to uncertainty? And follow your intuition and your spirit and your original mind and just say, yes, I'm curious. Yes,
mm,
I will move forward. Not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing how things physically, externally speaking, will turn out, where we're going to live, how much money we'll have, how many kids, not knowing any of that stuff, are you willing to walk with this? That's what faith
mm,
is. That's the true
mm,
test of faith. And so I think we're in a situation where people just don't have absolute faith. Here, let me make this really clear. It's okay to have preferences, right? We all do. Everybody has preferences. That's human. If you don't have preferences, you're not a human. You're just a blob. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Everybody has preferences. But the question is, are you willing to put those aside for a moment because there's a bigger game at play, because there's a bigger plan at play, because there are things
mm,
and ways that you might be called to grow in your life, lessons to learn through your spouse that you're not able to see right now. Because we all have
right.
preferences. We all do. Absolutely.
Mm,
But it's just a question of, okay, I'm going to acknowledge that I have this preference and I'm going to decide intentionally, maybe that's not healthy or right or anything. I'm just going to put that aside for a second and I'm going to go forward, have a conversation, start talking with people, have give and take. And if you're feeling uncertain about a matching process, it probably means you just need more give and take, more conversation, right?
mm,
More prayer, more conditions, like this kind of thing.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think we can all do better in the matching process by really valuing the people who put themselves forward, knowing full well that they are trusting God, that they are trusting their parents to be involved, they're trusting their matching team to be able to approach you in this way. So to focus too much on whether you're attracted to this person initially is a recipe for disaster because attraction can grow if you nurture it. If it's not there initially, but all the qualities of a good spouse is there, their level of faith and commitment to God, their own walk with God, like I was mentioning, their own conviction to be a man or woman of God is there, to lead a family, to become an ideal family is there. You know, you need to lead with that, and also on the reverse, many people have approached candidates who they were attracted to by their looks, by their
Mm,
physical attributes. And
mm,
well, guess what? That attraction faded because it lacked the spiritual and the emotional aspect that are more important than the physical attributes. So that also is another case that you want to remind yourself.
yeah, dude. People physically change very quickly.
Yes,
In a few years, people change, just saying.
exactly. Exactly.
Hmm. Aju, is there anything that you wanted to kind of tease for our next episode or something you wanted to go into more depth with on this topic?
Well, I kind of um next episode I do want to kind of delve in more. You were saying masculinity versus femininity. You said you were just on a podcast like talking about that. It kind of touches on that, but I think as individuals, we should it doesn't hurt to understand what a godly man or godly woman's attributes are that could help support a healthy family as a future spouse. And I think instead of focusing on what kind of careers you have before you approach someone because you want to be financially stable before you make that move, or you want to nothing wrong with hitting the gym. I hit the gym. I try to, but the just as much as you want to work on your physical attributes to make yourself appealing and desirable, there's a lot to work on the opposite side as well, as men as women. That supports more of the father calls it the spherical aspect of love, right? That not just a flat, one-sided, superficial, shallow type of love, but the spherical aspect of love that father always talks about, father and mother.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I wanted to focus more on is certain qualities and attributes that we
Yeah.
can work on ourselves, not what to look for, but as a godly man, as a godly woman, what are some attributes that are healthy and supportive of an ideal family?
Yeah, that's great. If you I was thinking about if you have a house that you're selling, you if you only focus on the exterior, you're going to attract people. But if you don't focus on the interior, as soon as they step in that house, they're going to say, "Nope, this is not it," right? So you got to have
That's
both. And
right.
so to the same degree, if you I'm not, I'm the internal guy. Like internal is everything, but if you don't have an external, people don't pay attention. And
That's
so I would
right. That's
say,
true.
from a utilitarian perspective, having an external your life together is really important for first impressions. I mean, that's just
That's right.
biological, right? But after
Yeah.
that, it's like when you're actually in a relationship with someone, like we see all of our flaws, we really see our external flaws come to
Yeah.
surface, and then it becomes internal. And this is just
Yes.
across the board in every relationship. Every relationship we value, at first, it's like, oh, I'm interested in this person. Like you're saying, brother, sister, man, woman, doesn't matter because externally, it's, I'm interested. They have their act together, they're physically, put together, whatever. But over time, it doesn't matter to any relationship.
Hmm.
Like internal is
Hmm.
like, who are you as my friend? Who are you as my sister, my brother, my spouse, right? Um,
Hmm.
and so, but here's the key: it's not that complicated to to have people interested in your house. Like we overcomplicate it, but it's pretty simple. Like, I mean, we could get into that a bit. It's pretty simple. It's
Yeah.
it's maybe hard to do for some people, but it's not overly complicated, like needing to, walk a certain way. And there's like all this stuff you need to have, it's pretty simple stuff from an external
Hmm.
perspective. Speaking from a man, at least, yeah, like, yeah, it's men are pretty easily stimulated by women, let's say that. And it's not
Yeah.
it's not very complicated to grab a man's attention. It's pretty simple.
This is
Um,
it's so funny
yeah,
because this is the stark difference because with women it's like you gotta have the whole package.
yeah.
And for men it's okay, you've already caught my attention.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Um, but again, if you are someone that requires if you are attracting someone based physically on physical appearance, they're not somebody that you want to be married to.
Mm,
That makes sense. Like if someone is only interested in you because of your physical appearance, they're not someone that you want to be married to. Period.
that's right.
Or if they're only interested in because you have money, also not someone you want to be interested in a long-term
Hmm.
relationship with, period.
Right.
And so it's a helpful, conversation starter, first impression thing. But after that, it's like, yeah,
Hmm. Yeah. You gotta have more than just the physical. Absolutely.
Cool, sis. I hope you guys dig this kind of conversation. It's just real talk. We're just trying to be helpful for y'all because there are things that I would say take up a lot of bandwidth for people, and this is
Mm-hmm.
one of them that we're trying
Yes,
to massage and have clarity. I think that's what people want is clarity,
that's right.
clear guidance. Not
Yes.
everything figured out, just like, okay, that's clear. And I think the clarity we've established, right, you can add on to this, is that attraction is a helpful indicator, right? It's important
Mm-hmm.
to pay attention to because it tells us something about ourselves, but it's also not the most important thing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there are other important things to talk about, which hopefully we'll get to in our next episode. Yeah.